KLTV soundcheck, KLTV soundcheck.
Wait.
Yeah. That's why it started late. That's why we started late.
Okay, welcome to Tuesday.
It
Huh?
stopped.
Oh. Ready, set, wait. Okay. Welcome to the Tuesday meeting of the VOCC. We'll start with invocation. We have used to be with the chaplaincy, now retired. It's good to see him again. So we'll let him do that.
Thank you. I invite you to join me as I open with a word of prayer. Father God, we thank you for the opportunity to gather together again to do business in this community. Father, I call upon your spirit to encourage and to uplift and to give wisdom to our commissioners as they lead this community, as they make decisions. Father, I pray for just a blessing on each of their lives, Father. Thank you for their commitment to this work. Thank you for their commitment to this community. We just ask for your grace and your wisdom and your blessings on our entire community, this county. We thank you, Father. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Those that want to join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, in addition to regular business today at 10 o'clock, we have a workshop with Workforce Southwest Washington has a presentation for us on a little bit what they do. And that'll be at 10 o'clock at the conclusion of our meeting today. I'd entertain a motion for the minutes of, wow, a couple weeks, August 25th, 27th, September 1st to 3rd.
Move to approve the minutes of August 25th through September 3rd.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. We have any corrections, comments, anything on them? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor? Aye, thank you. I'll run down consent agenda. We have two call for hearings. Call for hearing for property taxes assessments for 2026 to support Cowlitz County General Fund, Mental Health Services, Veteran Relief Services, County Road Fund. It's scheduled for November 25, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. There'll be workshops that happen on this in October, and these fees, these assessments will probably be pretty well in stone, but on November, the public workshop is so public has a chance to comment on it or make anything, but I would just note that the workshop where the heavy discussion will happen is in October. A call for hearing, setting of fees, 5-year county capital program and 6-year road program. And this one, dissolving funds in the 2026, 2027 budgets scheduled for December 2nd, 2025 at 9:30. This is the actual date where we'll approve the budget. But I would note, once again, there's going to be a lot of workshops working up to that date. Call for bids, an RFQ request for qualifications for stormwater program assistance scheduled for October 8th, 2025. It's been several years since we went out for our last RFQ. The company that works with us now does a fine job, but it's been enough time that we need to go out for another RFQ. So that's what we're going through that process. Agreements, contracts, bid awards, lease agreement with the Janus Youth Programs for the properties located on Washington Street. These are two houses right next to the coroner's building there that this is a renewal of a lease, and it's pretty much terms are consistent with the past lease. Basically, we don't charge a lot of money and they do work on the buildings when it's needed. First Amendment to the communication site lease between Weyerhaeuser Company to allow access to Weyerhaeuser's 199 Roan 45 tower for point-to-point wireless network system to improve internet speeds at headquarters landfill and authorize the chairman to execute the document. We've been doing this for quite a while. I think Sean told me the cost was about $500. It's not a big thing. We supply, they give us the use of the tower. And I think they use Starlink. Is that what you said yesterday to do that? So. Notice of filing departmental expenditures request and revenue estimates with for the 2026, 2027 with the Cowlitz County Clerk and the board. This a notice of all the meetings and everything that has to do with the budget. Once we approve this, will be posted. I think we've already started posting on websites and stuff. So we'll try, and the effort is to make sure the information's out there. If the public wants to see it or they want to know when they can talk about it, we will post all that. Letter board correspondence, FERC Federal Energy Regulatory Commission regarding revised EAP and status report with SWIFT number 2. Another one from FERC regarding revised drilling program for the seismic stability on SWIFT number 2. Another one with FERC regarding availability environmental assessment for the proposed Kelso Beaver reliability project. And then a memo dated 8/26/25 regarding 2026 budget estimate for Consolidated Diking Improvement District number 2. And it looks like we had vouchers in the amount of $6,222,493.45. And that's consent agenda. Any questions, comments on consent? Okay, I entertain a motion.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Last call. Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor? Aye. Thank you. One motion item today. Gina.
Okay, good morning, Gina James, Health and Human Services. We have one item on the agenda this morning. This is an amendment to our contract with the Washington State Department of Health. We often see amendments this time of year where they're allocating funding for the new fiscal period. So what we see today isn't new funding, it's just for the new fiscal period. What's included in this amendment is 3 different funding streams. So we have a allocation of about $44,000 for public health emergency preparedness and response. And this funding, in the past, we've had a position who does work around this. Moving forward, we're doing this funding will support staff time doing trainings, working with state partners, our local DEM, and regional partners around preparedness planning, and often some trainings too. We also have this year's allocation of foundational public health services funding. This is about $1 million. Years past, it's been about $1.4 million. And we've often returned a portion of this back to the state at the end of the fiscal year. All counties are seeing a reduced amount in their allocations moving forward. And so we're looking closely at that and looking at how it's being utilized. It supports some of our work around infection prevention, tuberculosis, vital records. And this is the funding that's also supported some work with the school gardens this past year. And then a whopping $250 for perinatal Hep B work. Like I said, it's good, it's small, but they provide some funding to support work around that.
Gina, on the foundational services, did they broaden the scope of what that can be used for at all?
No, it's the same as years past, yeah.
That's the one that my colleagues got questions on. How come the county's returning all this money they had to answer? And I know we've looked at that several different times. You've polled other counties to see how they use it. And then it seems to be what we use meets the need we have at this point in time. So it's not that we haven't explored the right things to put this to. It just hasn't used it all. So
Right.
We have access to the money, but if we
Yeah.
don't use it, we don't use it.
yeah.
Yep. And I think I'd mentioned where, we're looking at our budget for the next couple years and trying to just get creative with ways we could utilize it just to help offset some of our additional costs. So
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, entertain a motion.
I move approval of the contract amendment 25-002 with Washington State Department of Health.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the contract amendment 25-002 with the Washington State Department of Health. One last call for any questions, comments? Seeing none. Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you, Gina.
thank you.
Kind of upcoming events. Of course, the budget calendar is pretty extensive. It's on the list over there. You can look that out over. Like I said, at 10 o'clock, we have Workforce Southwest Washington. I see them in the audience, so we'll have a conversation with them. September 23rd, we have a Mount St. Helens discussion. I think it's pretty much the collaborative and us. The 30th, the Board of Health is Board of Health Day. In October, and we had these folks in, well, we had a gentleman that sat on this board. We didn't actually have the Fish Recovery Board in, but we have them in October 7th. And if you have any interest in all that at all, I thought it was extremely interesting to listen to Robert Suter the last time when he came in and talked about it to us. And I think that'll be a good one. The 21st, Department of Ecology will be coming in. And also on the 21st, our local homeless housing plan, we had to update that, and then that will be coming before us. Okay, with that, I'll open it up to you. It's your meeting. Just a reminder, West Side Highway is closed. If you live in Castle Rock, you understand that already because of the traffic coming through Castle Rock, but it is closed while the DOT repairs a failed culvert there that created a sinkhole, and they've told us it's about a month long. I think October 6th or a little after that is the date they're giving us for that. Okay, go ahead, Ron.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. Regarding the September 23rd discussion, Mount St. Helens discussion, that's a big deal. And so, and it affects all of us. And I would like to see some more communication, some more publicity on that to let the communities know the potential impact of that and put it into a context. So we really make it a big deal for our area, because that's going to need to be a big deal to get support from our legislators and everyone else ultimately for funding on Mount St. Helens and the water system. So maybe one of you can give a little bit of a just brief here right now at the public of what you're looking at to be.
Yeah, well, I can tell you a little bit of the history of it because I was here when I came on board in 23 or whatever, 22, 23, I guess it is. You know, we participated in what's known as the collaborative. I can't tell you all the letters that are part of it. And I participated in one of the meetings and it became clear to me that, as I learned more about the mountain and who had control of what you could do along this whole corridor from the mountain on down, it became real clear to me that it's a political issue, that it's not an issue we can sit around and discuss how we're going to do it. It's an issue that's going to have to happen, going to have to change through Washington, D.C. So the board at that point in time changed their directive and actually had our lobbying firm, CFM. Our goal was to start working towards the WRDA. What they call the WRDA is the directive Congress gave Army Corps of Engineers when that mountain blew as to what they should do with this mountain. And that's been in effect for a long time. And that it gets reviewed every so often, and it's coming up again in 26. And so the board at that time made the decision that we need to work towards trying to get that WRDA changed and expanded their authorities, because right now their only authority is flood control and the levees. And that's what they concentrate on. And any of us that know that river, we know we're having, continue to have tremendous amount of silt come down that. It causes river migration. It causes erosion on the sides. If you go up and down the river, you'll see little islands everywhere. That's just a lot of debris that comes down that. Plus you have when the mountain blew, when it formed the new lake up there, all that, what holds that lake in was all debris from that mountain. The problem with that, and they try to keep that lake down, is that debris is not a good base. There's been the potential that this whole time that if you have the right event and that lake breaches up there, that there's estimates of 14 feet of water in Longview. It's another mountain activity. And people, you look at it and you go, well, it's been there 40 plus years, 45 years. But I can tell you, on Tower Road, there's a creek called Rock Creek. When the mountain blew in 1980, it backed up into Rock Creek. At the time, Rock Creek was a fish-bearing stream, came down and merged into the Toutle. It run and blocked that creek up, dammed everything up in there. And it's been that way was that way for over 40 years. It was, in fact, all we needed at the time was a culvert and pave the road over it. A couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, time goes by fast. The right event happened and 3 7s, 4 7s come up and it all went away. The whole thing just crashed down through there. So now it took some of the neighbor's property. There's been shoring up of that. The point is that the ash has never been a good base, and if it hits the right thing, it can be a major problem for our county. And that's what this, Commissioner Rader's kind of been working on putting these pieces together, but I think that's what this is about, is to try and put our voice more collective that this could be a big issue in our county. There's nobody back in Washington, D.C. that was there 45 years ago that understands what we deal with on a daily basis. I think we're trying to get, and Commissioner can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're trying to get everybody on the same page that it's a political issue and that we need to have a strong voice.
That's it.
In Washington, D.C. I've been back. When we made the decision before, I met with Ecology and Army Corps locally. I've been back twice to Washington, D.C., and that's always the first thing on my list. I've met with a fellow by the name of Steve Kopecki from the Army Corps Engineer, which is the big wig that controls this whole area, just to try and get them a relationship going and them to understand what we're dealing with. So you're right, Ron. This is a workshop that people should take a lot of interest in. I would even hope the press takes an interest in this, because it's a big issue to Cowlitz County. If the 3 7s line up, it could be a big event and one that nobody wants to see.
Well, maybe there's the old saying, if you don't learn from history, history repeats.
Yeah.
Is that it's inevitable that's what we live on. That's what this this delta that in essence that we are, is that the history of those events happening and flushing everything down to this area that we live on. And of course, anybody building structures down here knows that all we are is sitting on a silt bed here, et cetera. And where did that silt come from? Down the Cowlitz, et cetera. And it didn't come flowing down inside of dikes along the Cowlitz River. So, and we know that we are exposed. 40 years, we've not seen any real activity in addressing that. So you're right on with the 40-year or your period coming to an end. If we don't make a big deal out of it, then of course no one else is going to make a big deal out of it. And I look forward to you commissioners making a big deal out of it and getting the notice out so we can help you make a big deal out of it with our representatives, et cetera.
Yeah, some of the erosion issues, and I see Mr. Kaiser in the back. There was an old landfill up in Castle Rock. How far was that from the river back in the day, Mike? Any idea? Huh? Oh, you could? It was that? Okay. Okay. But the erosion is, I was visiting with some neighbors that had some questions on development going in, and they live by the river up there in the Cowlitz above north of the high school, north of Green Acres there. And so they took me back to the riverbed just to show me, and they put a rangefinder on the side wall, and they watch each year how much goes away. And I think they said last year 30 feet of that wall went away, and it actually goes into the Cowlitz. And you can see down at Green Acres where the conservation group has tried to stabilize that wall on that part of it. But they say what they told me, and they were pointing out an area here, and they showed me where the high water mark comes up to. And he said, when you get to the high water mark, they'll actually be out there picking up garbage from the 60s and stuff from the old landfill that it's taking out of there. So it's creating quite a few problems and something that needs to be dealt with.
Right, very good. Okay, and then the October 21st meeting, Department of Ecology, it would really be nice if they gave us a little bit of an agenda of what's on the list. As I noted before, they missed some very important things for a public meeting at the last meeting. So we aren't just tossing words back and forth. There's a little bit of preparation for that meeting, and we know what's engaged.
Actually having lunch with Bobbitt today. He wanted to have lunch, and I imagine we'll talk a little bit about what's upcoming.
Right, and specifically, again, at that meeting, there was no mention of the Forest Practices Act that affects all of us very importantly. They're right in that. That was a major oversight that they didn't bring that up and brief us a little bit.
Yeah. That's true. That was a DOE rule that prompted the Forest Practices Act. And I know Mr. Kaiser went up and spoke against that up in Olympia.
Just a real short note. I don't know if you guys saw it last night, but our house has a great view of Mount St. Helens. And there was a huge plume of smoke coming out of it. I mean, we're talking huge. And then this morning we had an earthquake off the Oregon coast. And I believe myself that it's all tied together. And I don't think this is a project that you have a lot of time to discuss with cleaning out Mount St. Helens waterway. I think it's much more urgent than what you understand. I think it's all connected, and I think that we're living in a time where things can happen because, like I said, there was a huge plume and there was an earthquake. It's connected, and it's not going to take a large earthquake in order to destabilize some of that waterway. So it's urgent.
Well, I think Mount St. Helens has a history of erupting every 100 years. The last time it erupted was 130 years since the previous one. So we went 130 years. So on the average, we got a 70-year event coming around, and God forbid I live long enough to see that thing erupt twice.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
I know it, right? I don't want to see it again.
I don't know. And as much as if that sediment plug up there failed, if we got 14 feet of water in Longview, Kelso, Castle Rock, we could survive 14 feet of water. Unfortunately, it's not going to be just water. It's going to be one hellacious amount of sediment and rock and sand and every other thing between there and here. There's going to be logs and animals that all get flushed down that river. And if it, like I said, if it was 14 feet of water, we could clean up from that, but it's not going to be just water. It's going to be a hell of a mess, which will probably destroy Cowlitz County for an untold period of time if we were sitting in here with 6, 8, 10 feet of sand filling in this delta that we're sitting on. I can't even imagine the loss of life, the risk. I mean, if it failed, if we had an earthquake and you knew it was coming, I don't think we'd have a prayer of evacuating everybody and everything out of Longview, Kelso, Castle Rock. The timing would never get us there. The loss of life, the risk that we're sitting underneath just scares the heck out of me.
Yeah.
And how do you get the federal government, the state government, everybody to get focused on it when the majority of everybody who sits in those positions of what you want to call leadership, none of them were alive when Mount St. Helens erupted the last time, or if they were a couple of months or a couple of years old, and they've been living underneath it for 45 years, and they go, what's the problem? There's no risk, nothing's happened, and they can't see it, especially if they don't live here. So somewhere we have to figure out a way to educate a lot of people and get them to understand that the risk that we're under, although that stuff coming down the Toutle Valley and the Cowlitz River is a slow creeping threat, it is a monumental threat if something drastic happens upstream. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was, back when it happened, this has been amazing to me since I, sat in this seat. I watched Mount St. Helens blow in 1980 and then lived my life, worked, did all that kind of stuff, never thought much about it. And then when I got in this seat, I started learning all the issues we're still dealing with this, and I became quite amazed. I'm going, the average public doesn't know what kind of time bomb we're sitting on with this thing. And the issue is, I think we have a lot of cooperation from our state agencies and stuff. When this happened in 1980, I mean, how many times does a volcano blow and how do you deal with it? Well, they didn't really know, they didn't have anything to experience. Any volcano they've ever seen was in Hawaii, where you have this slow moving stuff. It wasn't a bomb, right? So Army Corps of Engineer was given overriding authority for that whole corridor. Doesn't matter who owns the land, Forest Service or whatever, eventually it has to go and get approved through Army Corps engineers to do it. So they're really the key in this, in my mind. They've always been the key in this thing, and it's become very apparent that the way you expand that key is through this WRDA process where Congress actually tells them what to do. They'll do what they're told, but they don't do much more beyond what they're told. And so that's the whole purpose of this meeting, is to try to put enough pressure on Congress that they understand what we're dealing with back here and expand the footprint that Army Corps needs to look at. When it happened, everybody was gung ho. They put dredges in there and moved all that. You've seen the piles everywhere. We got a shooting range built on what we call LT1, which is a big pile of dredge spoils. Well, we need some of that activity again, and they won't do it without Congress telling them to do it.
And I am painfully aware of all the earthquakes, Mount Rainier, Adams, all around us, what they call the Ring of Fire, all the earthquakes that have been going on. Yeah, I don't know what that points to. I think we're long overdue for one hell of an earthquake on the San Andreas Fault. So where are we gonna be at when that all settles out? I don't know.
To echo the sentiments of my seatmates, my biggest frustration is, and hopefully what comes of this meeting is to really spotlight the derelict in responsibility that I feel that the Army Corps of Engineers has had. We're running off of policy and plans that are 40 years old. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's unacceptable in my mind. Things need to change, and Congress needs to be made aware that they need to change. And the leadership that we have had back in DC, Murray, Cantwell, Perez, there's been nothing. There's been no activity. It's been nothing but lip service. And hopefully what this meeting does is this brings us together as a community and one voice at Southwest Washington saying something has to be done, because it's very frustrating that we're in the situation that we're in and there's been no movement. And the fact that I look at the Army Corps' responsibility, they've been derelict in that. They have not done what they need to do. They have not been proactive with anything whatsoever. And so here we are, having to respond and react to what the mountain and the river is doing. And their go-to is, well, Congress has to tell us. Well, that to me is an unacceptable response, because we've been getting it now for 40 years. And here we are, that permit's about to expire in 5 years. There is no comprehensive plan after that. And as a whole, our community needs to speak out and say something has to be done. And so the purpose of this is to bring us together as a community to, with one voice, let Congress know this is unacceptable and it needs to change.
Yeah. I think my colleague I think that's a great point, because let's be honest. When you're back sitting in Washington DC and you're not from this area, it's an economic thing, right? How much are they willing to spend versus how much value do they think these two communities have? You know, we gotta speak our voice for sure. Go ahead, Ron.
Right, and the way the political process works, it's just like you said, Steve, one of our state representatives needs to make a proposal at the Washington DC level in writing and get support for it during the political process. So that's where we really get something to happen. And of course, as you say, the other parties here locally will respond when they're told what to do, but someone has to tell them what to do. So I'm hoping that again, there will be either one of our senators or Perez, Representative Perez, present to listen to the discussion, and that we can put, I'll use the word pressure on them to submit some proposals.
Anybody else?
This is just open public.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Are there any rules that I need to follow that I'm not aware of? Okay.
No, we're not the cities.
Oh.
Let you talk.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna just read really quick because I
Sure.
get nervous.
Yeah.
Okay, so good morning, commissioners. My name is Courtney Russell, and I'm the co-founder and director of Hope. I wanted to speak today about Hope Village, its closure, and the larger issue of how decisions are being made around homelessness in our community. Here's the reality. Homelessness in Cowlitz County is not going down. According to the official point-in-time count, the number of people experiencing homelessness increased from 318 in 2023 to 337 in 2024. Our chronic homelessness actually rose by 66% in the same period, from 80 to 133 people. Statewide, homelessness continues to climb, and nearly 50,000 Washington students experienced homelessness last school year, a 14% increase. These numbers tell us one thing, that the crisis is worsening, it's not improving. And here's the concern. Hope Village has been a lifeline for many people in its short existence. It is also one of the only shelters in our county that accepts people with pets. removing a major barrier for people who would otherwise remain unsheltered. On top of that, there were nearly 200 people on the waiting list, which I saw with my own eyes, to get into Hope Village. That alone proves both the demand for this program and the unique gap it filled in our system. Yet despite this, the program is being shut down, paused, not by a vote of the city council, not with any public input, but by a small RFP review committee behind closed doors. So as good advocates do, we show up to ask, how can something so impactful for our most vulnerable neighbors be ended without transparency or the voice of the community being heard? And I want to remind you of something said just a few weeks ago at our Homeless Housing Task Force meeting. Commissioner Rader specifically spoke, sorry to throw you under the bus, it's all good. Specifically spoke about the importance of digging in and taking care of our own community in its own unique and tailored ways. This is exactly what Hope Village has been doing, building a solution that reflects the realities and needs of Cowlitz County. And yet here we are, just a few weeks later, shutting down the very project that embodied that vision. At Hope, we have a solid business plan, superior support structures, and an excellent track record of boots on the ground service. We're not new to this work. We have lived experience, professional expertise, and community trust. We know what works because we live it every day. What we're asking is simple. As Cowlitz County prepares to allocate over $11 million in state homeless and housing funds, we urge you to ensure that programs like Hope Village are given fair, transparent opportunities to compete. If the city of Longview intends to revisit an RFP process in January, let's make sure it's done openly with council oversight and public involvement. And finally, our community's most vulnerable people, the ones living outside, soon to be in the cold, the families with nowhere to go, the individuals with pets who refuse to give up their only companions, must stop being used as pieces in political moves and power struggles. Their lives and futures are not political leverage. They're human beings. They are my friends, and they deserve real solutions, not political games. When you see someone in the depths of despair, please remember that I sit here today having been one of those people. I can name countless others who have blossomed into productive members of society who pour back into our community as we've been taught to do, but we can't do it alone. The people we serve deserve accountability. They deserve every possible tool to fight homelessness, addiction, and mental health struggles. And they deserve to know that proven working models like Hope Village, one of the only pet-friendly shelters with nearly 200 people waiting for a spot, won't be shut down. Thank you.
Thanks for coming by. Geyser,
Chairman Dahl,
how are you?
here.
Did you come because you knew I was your ears were burning?
I was, I don't know if I was requested or told or suggested that I be here this morning by one of your neighbors, and you can figure out who that is.
Oh, okay.
One of Mrs. Paget's neighbors also, and I'm sure she can figure out who it is. Anyhow, I have a few things I'd like to
Sure.
chat with you about. Maybe we can hold it under 15 minutes.
Mhm.
First of all, you mentioned the West Side Highway project. Reminds me of one of my favorite projects, the Garlock Road one, an important transportation link in northwest Cowlitz County. How are we coming on that? It was shut down. The road was shut down June 30th. They shut the road down yesterday on the West Side Highway and says it's going to be done by October 6th, which is 6 weeks more or less.
Yeah.
We're over 2 months now on Garlock. I was just wondering how we're coming there.
I know they have to be, because it's being a fish bearing stream, they have to be out of there at the end of this month. But I don't know if that means the road's open. I just know they have to be out of the stream.
Right, and they couldn't be until August 1st,
Yeah.
but there was things you could do that 30 days before that.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'll go to the third item since we're talking about fish bearing streams, and Ron had mentioned the Forest Practice Act. I was going to mention when your ecology meeting is, and you might want to ask them, and I will say, ask them point blank where ecology is on the NP stream thing, because since you seem to know that I testified in Olympia, I don't know that you know what my testimony was. but I asked the
No.
board point blank. Some very pointed questions that people couldn't hide from. And that's the way you get through to them. And well, a lot of people know that ecology is the driver behind that rulemaking process. So my suggestion would be to ask them, hey, where's the department on that? And who's the voting member from the Department of Ecology on the forestry board, and where are they going to be? And now I forgot my second thing I was going to bring up, so I'll go to the fourth one. Since the previous speaker brought up Camp Hope and talk about political game, the volcano, I'll get back to that in a minute. Camp Hope is the result of a political football game. The city of Longview chose to do an end run around the Board of Commissioners of Cowlitz County because they didn't like what Cowlitz County's ideas was. So they were going to show everyone in the world just how much muscle they had and do it themselves. And now look where it's at. They had the process to start the program, but they couldn't carry it out. I think that shows some pretty short-sighted thinking on the city of Longview's part. And I hope somebody from the city of Longview is watching this, and just see where the mess that they've created, not just the political mess, but as the previous speaker talks about, it's the personal mess for the people that are in there. When that door shuts, those people are back on the street and they thought they had something going. Whether they should or shouldn't this is the time and place for that discussion. But the fact is, it's a political football, and the city of Longview has brought this all on themselves because they didn't have a thought process to carry this thing out long term. They thought they could shove it down everybody else's throat if they got it started. So look at the mess they've created. Now we'll go back to the volcano. Say we'll stick on political process. What happened in 1980 politically regarding the volcano? Warren Magnuson was in charge back in the Senate. And that's why so much money was brought into the area. There was no end of the stream of money, just bring it on. We need to do this, this, and this, and this. And he got what he wanted because in 1980, until the election, Democrats were in charge in the Senate back there. If you go back to Senator Murray's office and you look on the wall in the conference room there, I'm assuming you've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got the picture of all the senators have held that office.
Right.
Who was the senator that Patty Murray holds that office position today in 1980? It's Warren Magnuson. She sits in the same office he had. And you talk about Senator Cantwell and Representative Perez. It's time for Senator Murray to do something. She sits in the very office that Senator Magnuson had and delivered 45 years ago. It's time for her to deliver. There's your political process regarding the mountain. All the rest of it is, yeah, we can do whatever we want here, but nothing's going to happen until Congress says so. And that's the way to make Congress say so, to just point out, excuse me, ma'am, the person that sat in this office 45 years ago made this happen, and you're a high-ranking official. What is she, the number 4 person in seniority back there? Make things happen on our behalf. Her state. Thanks for your time and consideration.
I should have talked to you before I went back this year. I would have asked the question.
You should talk to me a lot of times, Rick.
I hope you had taken notes.
Yeah. Anybody else?
It's your idea.
As everybody knows, over and over again, I mentioned the fact that I'm really tight with money. And so I always think about how to save money. And an idea had come to me that we need a mental health facility. We need to have a place to have it. And then on the other hand, we have only 8 residents in the juvenile hall system. Those 8 residents can be farmed out, so to speak. And then we would have an empty hall, except for the fact that we do have truant officers and such, but they can be replaced as well into a different area, or we can lease that area that they're using. If we sell the facility, then the county has money to do other things. We don't need that facility right now. We can sell it, use the money. Like I say, we can actually rent out that area that the probationer officers, or there's other offices that they're used. There's also schoolrooms that can be, I don't know, the people that are buying it, they have a lot of options is what I'm saying. They can lease out the offices that we're currently using now, but they have 4 pods, 3 pods anyways. They have a lot of beds that they can use. Their facility can be used right away. And the county will have the money from the sale of it to do what we need to do for the for our mental health facility. Well, we'll have one, but we'll also have the money to do further programs that we need. So just a thought, because I think it would help. It's a win-win situation. We aren't using that facility. We haven't used it it also needs upkeep, which we won't have to put out and save money. But like I said, I think always about the money, and I'm sure there's other aspects that have to be thought about, but I'm always to save money. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? We have Workforce Southwest Washington at 10. I think we'll just take a short recess till 10, and then we'll reconvene. This Steve, in answer to your question yesterday, questions on real estate or any of that can just be right in open session.
Okay,
If it gets to the point where you gotta sign a contract, that goes.
then we'll go. Okay, perfect. Oh, thank you.
Truck stop, you can park trucks inside of that thing. So I was like, material. My brother, I used to. Yeah, he just sold it years ago. Dad died in this way. I said, I'm graduating 76, and they probably stepped there. Different breaks. Yeah. Heard about that. Say you can have each tour and rank down there with the club. So there. There's all these people driving past. No big deal. Come across the bridge and I stopped because there were windows. I said, "I need to stop." And I will make that tell us what happened.
I think inside.
Chair. Are you up for a round of? We're not being spoiled. I am not that radio. Yeah. They get on to this is that. Somehow we need to make it. The Cowlitz. They're destroyed.
No, I wasn't just want to break your that.
There's not much good.
I wasn't gonna break your neck.
Yeah.
And not that you didn't deserve it.
Oh, I completely did deserve it. It was completely provoked by me. And I thank Bruce for saving my life.
And that's where these things, all these wars that we had, this
It's not free.
But for the record, Steve, that is proud side. You told me if I had to do that again, I would give you. Ever do that again?
But you're protected twice, buddy.
Oh, no, second time he was going to be you. He goes, you're not.
Yeah, we do. We need to focus on the fact, right now, I mean, fishing game, Department of Ecology, they're all looking at that whole mountain issue and going, well, let's fix this and let's fix that. Let's put logs in the stream for the salmon. Oh my God.
We're talking about John.
What do you mean, top? Of course.
Well, you know.
And they had a tour down there where the guys just do that. John Drake.
I didn't take a tour, right?
John Drake.
Yeah. Down there, are you talking about?
Above the high school.
From high school, yeah. You can see the clip, or I was doing it, I think it's. I can see the filings and stuff, looks like. I mean, you're trying with. The real fix is. The ability to put in feed in there. Channel. It's not even real, it's way fish.
It would be fast, just like. They- Forever, it used to be a rock thing down there in the south. Great rooms. But Elba, Elba Conservation.
Yes.
They still. Yeah, you clean that up. Yeah, and that's what these ones that now there's, it really is, but it's told because it's finding out that it's what they do. That's exactly. And that's the first thing. And of course, that's the person will again, just gonna take the set of. I told her as hard as I can, and that's what's wrong. And people don't really realize, what until you get it. This thing isn't just like here, it's so it's not even here, it's New York.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not right, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very time consuming. Yeah, somebody needs to ask them to college, how's the college you gonna vote on November 12th?
Well, I'll see you today, I'm gonna ask.
Thank you for.
November 12th is the date.
Yeah, that's not very far.
No, that's coming right up.
Good to see you.
All right, you stay safe.
Okay, back from recess, we'll head into our work session. We're happy to have Workforce Southwest Washington here. They have a presentation for us, so we'll just turn it over to you. Right, introduce yourself and then go on. Okay.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having us. Before I jump in, can you hear me okay, or my blasting your drums out, or it's okay? Great. I just do want to recognize and acknowledge Commissioner Farrell is on WSW Workforce Southwest Washington's Executive Board of County Commissioners. I just want to acknowledge that and thank you for your support of our staff, our board, and our work. And also to say, I hope what we have to share today isn't too redundant for you, but maybe you'll get it. So I'm Darcy Hoffman. I'm the Director of Business Services at Workforce Southwest Washington. So myself and my team work directly with the business community to help understand what their hiring needs are in terms of skills they're looking for, the type of education that they're looking for, how many people are they anticipating hiring? And then we turn around and we use that information to either get them connected to our service providers to meet those immediate needs. And most commonly, we're working with our program team staff, which Mondo will introduce himself here in just a second, to help inform their program design. So as they're shaping workforce programs and issuing contracts to our providers, our employer partners are helping to inform that design based on what their needs are. I'll say a little bit more about this later in the presentation, but we primarily focus on healthcare, manufacturing, and construction. So I will talk more about that later, but before we jump in, I'm gonna turn it over to you, or just have you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Darcy. Hello, y'all. My name is Mondo. I'm a program manager here at Local Southwest Washington. I support a lot of those specialty programs. We typically mainly funded through federal, but also have state and local resources that support programs. Like we identified with Darcy, we identify work together to support employment barriers and support our local system as a whole. In particular, my focus is really with our service providers, House that of Source, which is just right down the road, actually, one of our locations here in Cowlitz County, as well as creating partnerships and applying for resources.
So I missed your name again. Would you say that clearly?
Mondo and Tuna.
I don't know if your guys' microphones are on.
Sorry, there's like a light green button and then there's a brighter green button.
Okay, now I'll
There you
probably
go.
blow your eardrums
Yeah,
out.
get ready, get ready.
Tell me if you need me to push this mic back. Okay, so a little bit about WSW or Workforce Southwest Washington. I'm going to call us WSW from here on out because otherwise it's just too big of a mouthful. We're one of 12 local workforce development boards in the state of Washington. There's over 550 of us throughout the country. And we work together with our stakeholders to leverage investments and shape programs that help people get back to work. And our North Star, our overarching goal is employment, and not just any type of employment, but we want people to get into really good quality jobs that leave our programs. Our stakeholders include business. Our board we're led by the business community, the private sector business community. So they're the biggest voice at the table, but also labor, education, our community-based organizations. Those are all sort of our partners in this work. And specifically WSW, we serve Clark, Cowlitz, and Wahkiakum counties here in Southwest Washington. And then now I'm going to tell you some things that you probably already know. Hopefully you already know about Cowlitz County, but I think it'll just kind of set the stage for the rest of today's presentation. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about strengths of this community. Your location, you have great transportation infrastructure, you have a really strong manufacturing base. And it's been a couple years since I've looked at these numbers, but you also have a really strong labor representation in Cowlitz County. I know normally when we compare employees who are represented by a union in Clark County versus Cowlitz County, it's very high in Cowlitz County, which is a really great thing, especially as we think about job quality and wanting really good jobs for the people that we serve. You have a really supportive group of community organizations with a really good track record of working together to support businesses. An example, we do a lot of work with the Cowlitz Economic Development Council. So as they are, looking to recruit companies to come locate here in the area, or looking at companies who are wanting to expand in the area, usually one of the first things that comes up for these companies is, what does the workforce look like? And am I going to have access to the talent that I need to be successful? And so that's where they bring us in, and we will work with them and work with those companies to understand what their needs are, help them get real-time data to understand what the workforce looks like in the community. And if we don't have what they need, then we have programs and partners that can help prepare the type of talent that they need. Your top ranked industries by employment are manufacturing, government, healthcare, and then also retail, trade, and construction, which aren't on the slide in front of you. So those are the top 5. These are the things that make Cowlitz County really unique. And I will say that those
those top industries by employment concentration truly are really unique. It's not often that I see manufacturing at the top of the list when you look at companies' top 5 employment regions' top 5 employment concentrations. And so these are really good things and really strong things about Cowlitz County, because nearly all of these industries, these are the types of industries that we're training workers for. And we're doing that because they do tend to offer self-sufficiency wages. They do tend to offer good benefits for people to be able to support their families and see a doctor when they're sick. They do have career growth opportunities. And those are the things that are really important to us. So all of those things make Cowlitz County a great place. You also have a slightly lower cost of living index than we do if you look at like the Portland, Vancouver metro region. You're sitting right now at 111. Anything over 100 is considered high, so it's high. Most places are high. But if you look at the Portland, Vancouver metro area, they're sitting just over 120. So you definitely have that going for you as well. Strong employment base, strong industries, and slightly lower cost of living. In thinking about the industries that we focus on at WSW, we are really focused on making sure that the people who participate in our programs get access to really good jobs. And so a couple of years ago in 2021, we launched a job quality framework and initiative. And we know it's important to our community. I know it's important to you all. It's important to our residents that people have access to jobs where they can support themselves. And Cowlitz County has a lot going on in that regard. So those are all the really good things. There's more, but related to workforce and economic development. So now I want to talk just a little bit about our investment approach. So first thing, we make sure we operate a lot of programs, and we make sure that through our providers, the customers, the participants that we're serving have seamless access to those programs. So if somebody comes into one of our providers at one of our centers, Mondo said WorkSource, it's right over here. Let's say they have been laid off from their job. That job's no longer in demand. They're probably a good candidate for retraining. So we might put them in one program that could give them a scholarship to attend a program at LCC, let's say. And we may also enroll them in another program that can help them get tools and equipment for their new job at graduation. So we make sure that the people that we're serving get access to the full suite of programs that we have to offer. All of our programs are guided by employer demand. We have labor market data that we analyze and publish annually so that we have a pretty good pulse on where people are going to be most likely to return to work quickly, and to return to work at a livable wage. And then we also have industry panels for the sectors that we focus on. So again, healthcare, manufacturing, construction. We look at that data also every few years just to make sure we're still focusing and investing in the right places. But we have employers who represent those industries who help us determine our approach and our investment strategy moving forward. And as we're picking those industries to focus on, we're looking at things like job demand, job growth, career growth opportunities, earning potential, and then just overall criticalness to a region. So that's how we've landed on those 3 at this point. And then our communities benefit because our programs are helping people either get to work or back to work. And businesses are benefiting because they're getting access to job-ready talent through us. And if we don't have the type of talent available that they need, we do have some programs that we can actually help companies financially to maybe hire and train somebody on the job to do this type of work. So we have a little bit to offer for everyone, but the whole goal is that we're getting people into good jobs and reducing some of the pressure on reliance on public programs. So all of that still could sound a little bit ambiguous. And I will turn it over to Mondo now, who can talk a little bit more specifically about one of our programs.
Let me ask a question. How long have you Workforce Southwest Washington been around?
We've been around, that's a great question, since 2020.
Since 2020, okay.
I want to say, yeah.
I asked because in the 90s,
I was gonna say it might have been 1998. close.
Well, in the nineties, I was running a small credit union, Reynolds Credit Union, and the plant was sold. And I know a lot of those people went through retraining and taking other jobs. So my curiosity was if you were around at that time and part of that.
Very likely, yes, and those programs still exist today. In fact, in the last couple of months, I have seen an uptick in companies who are downsizing and laying workers off. We've had some closures, some different things like that. So that's actually been a big part of at least my world for the last couple of months, is to help those companies and help those workers transition.
And you kind of talked about the people that represent on the board and who you work with. Is the college involved?
Lower Columbia College?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lower Columbia, yes, they're on our board and they're a very close partner of ours. In fact, I don't have this number off the top of my head, but I would say most of the training investments that we make in Cowlitz County are through programs at LCC.
Okay.
Yes.
I think the most impressive thing that I see on that page right there, the investments page, is that you track results.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a big requirement of what we do. We track results. We're
Right.
constantly audited and monitored and validating data and looking at the data. And so, yes, that is a big part of what we do. And we have all kinds of resources that can help people get from A to B, but the goal is a job, and many different ways we can do that.
So what, on the time frame of the first slide, the $142 million investment
Oh, you know,
is over what period of time?
say, I bet that slide said when we were founded. 2002. I was so close.
Okay, so since 2002, $142 million invested in this program, and
Okay.
returns that you're tracking
Yeah.
equal what kind of return back into the community?
Yeah, good. Mondel's going to talk about that actually in our next slide. I will say, obviously, our budget, we didn't start with this type of a budget, but typically the last couple of years were probably $8 to $12 million a year total operating budget. This year's ugly. Don't ask me what it is. I'm not sure, but it's drastically reduced.
Okay.
You have good ROI
Perfect,
examples.
yes, thank you.
Did
Not-
you have a question before you move on, Ron?
Yes, please. This community can get involved here. So you said since 2002, okay? So what is your real objective? What was your charter when, as our workforce, Southwest Washington workforce?
Back then,
Well, what is it now?
now is to get people into high quality jobs, people who don't have one and want one, people who've been laid off and need to return to the workforce. We work with a lot of young adults, age 16 to 24, who are either not in school or not working. So it's employment. That's the end all be all.
Okay.
Preferably, we would like to do it with some of our highest growth, highest demand industries where we know those good opportunities exist, but we're looking for good jobs for people.
Okay, so as with an $8 to $12 million a year budget, that's your office here, or is that?
So we serve Clark, Cowlitz, and Wahkiakum counties with that budget. For our job seeker services, we don't do direct service delivery. We contract it out to organizations in our community who are close to the people that we need to serve, who understand their needs. They do the service delivery. And by far, our biggest investment is in the work source centers. So there's one here and one in Vancouver.
So as a manager of that entity, you must have some metrics that you track to say, how am I doing? How is my staff doing? And am I getting better or whatever? Is that a fact?
That's a fact, yeah. So we have a number of different funding sources that are all contributing to the same goal of getting people the skills that they need to get into good jobs. So yes, there's a lot of that tracking across funding sources.
Okay, so now the tracking part, now I'd like to talk about the beginning part. I don't recall having any of your associates testify, let's say, at some of the new businesses or some of the developments that we had proposed for the area that were sunk by ecology or other things, testifying as the positive impact that that could have on our community. Is my perception correct or inaccurate?
That's a really good question. I'm familiar with probably a couple of those projects that you're referring to. Whether or not we testified, I don't know. I don't know that I can answer your question. I can find out and get back to you.
Well, from now forward, why not? Why wouldn't you represent the employment community in the opportunity and actually give a short presentation or testimonial or some data
Yeah.
positive to kind of counter some of all the negative we get?
Yeah, we would. We definitely would. I think if the opportunity presented itself, if somebody invited us and there was the opportunity to do it, I think we would.
Well, I don't think you need an invite. You're a government entity representing us. You should be Johnny on the spot representing us in the positiveness.
Yeah, we're a nonprofit. We do have some government funding, but we are a nonprofit.
You are, oh, okay, I'm okay, you're a nonprofit.
Yeah.
So your $8 to $12 million a year comes from what then?
Federal, state, and we have some private investment too.
That sounds government to me.
Yeah, yes, we're funded. We have government funding. Yeah, but we're a nonprofit. So we are part of a federal legislation that basically designated workforce regions. That's when I talked about the 12 boards in Washington, over 500 in the country. We are one of those that's part of federal legislation to invest in the local workforce. So we get an allocation.
Okay, thank you. So go on, then.
I think the point there is that since you're receiving government money, advocate for yourselves to the public.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is a good opportunity to highlight economic security for all. It started as a pilot in 2019 here in Cowlitz County, actually within two specific communities, the Highlands in Kelso and in Longview, my apologies, in the South Kelso neighborhood. This pilot came from the governor at the time's priority and focus to reduce poverty here in Washington. And we were among 4 of the workforce boards to be able to apply for that funding and be able to operate that program here in the community. At the time, it was called Thrive. Some of you might be familiar with it, as we've been very excited to see it grow and continue. And so after that pilot, even a pandemic couldn't stop the results that the program enabled us to have. And really what was special about Economic Security for All is it enhanced all federal funding and allowed us to take a local approach to do and build off of that federal funding and fill in gaps and meet the needs of all communities, with a big focus in individuals who are not making self-sufficiency wages and experiencing poverty. From the pilot, I'm so happy to say that now the Economic Security for All program is available in the entire state, with every workforce board operating some program, although it looks different in every region. And that's really a result of our efforts in the legislative session to advocate and showcase the results that Economic Security for All had to support individuals gaining self-sufficiency. And I think 2 legislative sessions now, Economic Security for All was written into law by all state legislators, becoming one of the first state-funded workforce programs of this nature. And since then, we have really been able to put in the work and support our communities with focus to that self-sufficiency wage. We utilize a tool from the University of Washington to really gather what that wage looks like for every individual. It's a combination of household size, income needed to cover expenses, and with a particular focus on what would it look like for individuals to not receive any public assistance and really be that self-sufficiency wage. On average, individuals who enter our program come in with income below $10,000. And within 5 months, which is the average time within the program, participants exit our program with about income annual less than about $50,000, which is just really incredible. And we have all the data that we've been able to track that. But really what that also showcases is the return on investment. And so for every $1 invested in our program, there's been a return of $4.25 through increased sales tax revenue and reduction in public assistant needs. We're happy to showcase some of the formulas and math behind such a complicated number, but it really eliminates and helps amplify that the Economic Security for All program is working. And really what allows it for it to work is our unique approach within our communities. So an access point is WorkSource. Participants can come to WorkSource any day of the week and get screened for eligibility, but also through community-based organization co-locations. We're able to increase our service area and partner with Lower Columbia College to have one of our career specialists on site to support people right then and there. Similarly, we have sites at the Cowlitz Tribe to support individuals going through their programs and a variety of other community-based organizations to help increase access. And really, Darcy mentioned it, the program supports so many pieces. EXA is fundamental in all the pieces that Darcy covered, with career support, resume support, workshops for interviewing techniques, job search clubs, but also some of the resources to help gain skills to be more competitive for those jobs at self-sufficiency wages. In particular, through training funds, the program is able to provide participants funding to support post-secondary or credentials through how high in demand occupations. And in partnership in 2013 with the Washington College Grant Connect program, actually enabled participants enrolled in our program to be eligible for the maximum benefit of Washington College Grant program and receive basically a post-secondary bachelor's or associate's degree with very minimum out-of-pocket expenses. And we've been able to collaborate really great with Lower Columbia College to get individuals connected, enrolled, and on that long-term pathway to self-sufficiency wages. Ultimately, self-sufficiency is a journey that every individual identifies for themselves, and our program is able to support those individuals to accomplish that with some supports as well. I mentioned the training funds. The other big critical thing that now supports individuals reaching their self-sufficiency goal is called support services. And oftentimes, simple barriers like transportation to and from a job interview or to your classes for credentials can pop up. And so the program is able to offer gas vouchers and bus passes to support removing those barriers. And in particular, like getting ready for the first day of work and needing some personal protective equipment, the program is able to cover some of those costs through a clothing voucher and really make sure that that individual is set up for success. And this all might sound expensive, and it is, but an average cost for participant within the 5 months in our program is $5,905, which is pretty impressive when you think about everything that it is that I just mentioned. It is included in that cost, in addition to so much more, like keeping the workforce building and infrastructure in place and the time needed to monitor and track our progress. A big focus and the big goals of EXA is enrollments into the program, placements into training, and the big stall is exits to self-sufficiency. I wanted to revisit the return on investment. Darcy mentioned that there was workforce boards all across the state, and within our program, we have the second highest return of investment among all of the workforce boards at that $4.25 per every $1 invested. The rest of the state has an average of $2.34 return for every dollar invested. And we have one area to beat, and we just started a program year back in July. We're really excited this year to aim our sights for that #1 place, not only for bragging rights, but also the impact that that has of just getting individuals access and journey to their self-sufficiency wages. Next slide, please.
Actually, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
With regards to that, if you go back, it looks like you're spending, just for sake of round numbers, $6,000 per participant for 5 months. So that's $30,000 for, and say that person is one of those people that is in that $10,000 a year in enrollment for a $50,000 a year job. How does that equate to $4.25 to the dollar invested? Because those two don't add up. So how does that work? You understand what I'm saying? Because we're spending $60,000 on a $50,000 a year job. How is that $4.25 to $1 invested?
It also inputs the estimated savings of individuals who are no longer needing to be on public assistance into that formulation. And I'm happy to provide more full details later.
And it is just a $6,000 investment is returning a $50,000 a year job.
Oh, it's not 6,000 per month.
No,
My
total.
bad.
Oh,
Okay.
thanks for that clarity, Austin.
Okay.
We got a math whiz over here.
Yeah.
I was like, that doesn't add up.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't,
The way I read it, it says 5-month average program. Okay, that's my.
I'm not understanding why you would look at your ROI, your return on investment based on sales tax revenue. Sales tax revenue would not be necessarily a positive identifier of employment in the community. Yes, it would be an indicator, but it wouldn't be, during the travel season or the tourist season, if we had a big windfall because of tourists coming through, would drastically affect that number. So I don't understand why that would be a good indicator.
Sure. And we can say, we do have the formula for how this was calculated that we're happy to share with you. I think the idea is that prior to enrollment, our participants potentially weren't earning an income at all to be spending money in our local economy. So I think that's the factor in that sales tax revenue, is that now they are purchasing things because they have employment.
Yeah, I understand that piece of it, but I don't agree that that's gonna be the whole pie. So, okay.
Fair. Oh, yeah.
You talked about, Highlands was one of the pilot programs
Yes, in
in
2019.
the Highlands program. And some of these numbers, is that reflective of what you saw at the Highlands?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It was a pilot program, so there was still a lot to adjust and influx. And then I will also note that the COVID-19 pandemic happened shortly after. And so we saw a lot of individuals in the Highlands needed to continue on in the program and perhaps not exiting at that wage.
Okay.
In the first iteration, we also had what's called an income adequacy score, and we saw a lot of individuals reach that income adequacy score in the Highlands Center. And then, of course, resources are always available for individuals who are not at the self-sufficiency, and continue to support and provide resources to get them to that.
These numbers are just last year's numbers.
So these are last year?
Not that far.
Yeah, okay.
So there's, my perception on a lot of these programs is that you get good interest at the beginning, but there aren't a lot that really finish the program and get to the $50,000 job. So what is your success rate on the ones you sign up, get started, that will get through the program?
I believe it's about 88% completers reach that self-sufficiency goal. We do have a high level of individuals who lose engagement for whatever reason. We try to create a low barrier program, so individuals who are eligible for the program have access to that. And really, it's on individual and their self-determinants to reach that self-sufficiency goal. We provide all the resources available for them to utilize that. And hopefully we can encourage them to take up those resources and pursue them. And with support services, we can help reduce barriers that might pop up for an individual who's determined to reach that goal.
So does that also, do you do work the placement service also? I mean, they get through that and you're working on the placement of them in jobs?
Yes, and we also have resources to support job retention. So say something pops up while they're employed and they need an additional skill or personal protective equipment or equipment, we're able to support them and hopefully reduce that gap of them not being employed.
Some employers get a stipend, I'll use the word stipend anyway, that bringing in this employee, they only pay 50% or 75%. That's part of the program also, or you're not involved in that part?
That is part of the program as well on the business side, on the job training, OJT, also individual development accounts, I believe.
Yeah, it's not a given
Yeah.
that everyone will access that program. It's really based on individual needs and also what the needs of the employer are. But where it's appropriate, yeah, we have on-the-job training resources where we can reimburse the employer a percentage of the new workers' wages to help offset the cost while they get them up to speed and learning the job. Yeah.
Okay. And then back at the very beginning, you said that the key businesses were health services, et cetera, and manufacturing, pulp and paper, and forest products. Is that called manufacturing?
Yes. Yes, it is. Yep, that's lumped into manufacturing. Yep.
Okay. And like your $8 to $12 million a year, that's considered government? That's in that category?
Not all of it, but because we do have some private funding, but a fair chunk of it, yeah, would be state and federal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this 88%, this is 88% of people that completed the 5-month program?
It's not,
Or not 88, it's not 88% of the people that initially sign up. Is that right?
88% of the people who initially signed up.
Initially signed up.
Yes, because it's not, the 5 months is an
Okay.
average. Participants can take as many months as needed to reach that self-sufficiency wage. What we notice is 5 months tends to be the average of the participants who in the program complete it and then
Okay.
exit to self-sufficiency.
So over this past year,
88%.
9 out of 10 people who started this program finished it and saw improvement.
Yes.
Okay.
So do 100% of the people who enter the program completed?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely have attrition in programs.
Me?
We definitely see attrition in programs.
And so of individuals who have completed the program and have exited to a wage, 88% of those have exited to wages at that self-sufficiency. And the other percent are back to, I mentioned income adequacy, which is they have enough funds to support their overall expenses, but perhaps are still on a few state or federal public benefits. Typically, some of the higher ones that or close last are like childcare subsidies and different tax subsidies.
Okay.
You ready?
Oh, yeah. Trying to think where I left off. But I really encourage you all to can you think about your workforce journey or workforce system. Prior to being in this role, I really was unaware of the workforce system or how critical it played in everyone's lives and roles. For me and myself and my family, we grew up in poverty. And if it wasn't for programs like this at WorkSource or through DSHS, we wouldn't, our journey to self-sufficiency probably wouldn't have come when it did. And in particular, if it wasn't for all colleges and programs like the Washington College Grant, I wouldn't have been able to achieve a post-secondary education at Wazoo and have a self-sufficiency job living in Cowlitz County, supporting my family and my community. And I was able to do this with support and assistance from a few programs, but Economic Security for All and the WorkSource, the programs at WorkSource do this for so many participants on a year-to-year basis. And it really is just incredible when you think about the individual impact. We get hundreds of people at self-sufficiency wages, and getting enrolled into the programs had an opportunity to start that journey. And it really is impactful. It reduces employment and reliance on public assistance. Speaking for myself, was on many of those assistances growing up, and now I'm able to contribute to them in another way through the taxes and revenue that I make employed here at WSW. Also supports the growth of local economies through stronger businesses and increased tax revenue. More residents reaching self-sufficiency wage create a stronger community. And in particular, when residents have skills or access to skills for those in-demand jobs, our community continues to strengthen. And a fundamental foundation of that is a strong workforce system. And that makes Cowlitz County more competitive. And so hopefully together, next slide, please. We can not only aim to be the #1 program in Washington State for the return of investment, but also continue to support our Cowlitz community for a strong future. And invite you all to be connected and us connected and continue our partnership together. Hopefully, if anything, today is a refresher of the resources and programs available to utilize. And if you have any questions around workforce needs or in particular barriers around workforce problems, we'd love to support and get engaged. We often apply for funding to support increasing new programs or strengthening the programs we have to support employers and businesses and the people in our community. And it's something as simple as a letter of support or collaboration around how we might be able to resolve one of those problems or barriers in a program together through business and program engagement. Really just an open door and invitation to continue our partnership, continue to supporting those. We host a variety of job fairs, new sessions, information, workshops. Invite you all to attend those, or if you are interested in having further workshops, taking a specific deep dive into any of our programs or things like that, we'll be happy to do so. Or even something as simple as touring the WorkSource site and seeing what it is that we talked about in person and live in action. We're here to support you all, and together we can support and make a stronger Cowlitz County.
And if there's ever anything like today's presentation was intended to be pretty high level about who we are and what we do and what we're doing here in Cowlitz County specifically. But if there are these programs that you want to dig into and know more, I think especially in your role on our board of directors, like let's dig into them. Like we're happy to have these conversations and answer these questions in a better way, give you the data that you're looking for. Just let us know. Or any other ideas that you have on how we can better be available and support Cowlitz County. We're here for it.
Perfect.
So with that,
So could you give us a quick rundown on your staff? What is staffed for your $8 to $12 million a year business? Is it local? Is it here in Longview or whatever? Just kind of a,
Sure. Yeah, so we have an office located downtown Vancouver. Prior to the pandemic, that was our office that we reported to every day. Things look different now since the pandemic. So many of us are in the office 2 days a week. The other days we're working remote out in the community. So we do have staff that live in Cowlitz County. Actually, Mondo's one of them. I live right down the road in Ridgefield. So you'll find us either maybe meeting with a business or at LCC for a conversation with our partners at LCC or at the Economic Development Council or at WorkSource. So we're out and about quite a bit, but our main office is in Vancouver.
and how many, what's the number? How many do you?
Staff,
Yes,
I think we are at 15 right now.
15.
Yep.
Okay.
I think we are at 15 right now.
Okay,
And
thank you.
the really two sides, program team, and then a few auxiliary teams that support the work that we do around monitoring, communications, a lot of financial support. We move a lot of money, and so it's great to have a good financial team to support and keep everything in balance.
So the $8 to $12 million a year, that does or doesn't include these grants?
Does.
It does.
All of
Okay.
it.
Okay,
Everything.
I
Yep.
gotcha.
Yep, for us to operate and to
That's your operating.
provide all of the services that we provide in the community. That's everything. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Interesting. I always enjoy having the organizations in to talk to us. We all sit on different boards, so it's nice to kind of hear what Commissioner Farrell sees on, on a more routinely. So we appreciate you coming in. And
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, anytime.
Thank you.
Any last things? Good. Thank you. Any last things for the good of the order? I'm seeing none. We will adjourn. Thank you.